Hello again. As you know, I'm Eli the Computer Guy over here for EliTheComputerGuy.com and EverymanIT.com. Today's class is Linux live CDs for troubleshooting and hacking. So today we're going to be talking about Linux live CDs. Live CDs are really cool. They're relatively new in the computer world, probably 6 or 7 years old, but they are absolutely great. What live CDs are they are an entire operating system that you can put on a CD or DVD and boot off of. So normally when you have an operating system on your computer, you actually have to install the operating system onto the hard drive of the computer in order for the computer to boot. With live CDs, you are able to boot straight off of the CD and go into an actual operating system environment. Now, when you're dealing with Linux live CDs, you're able to go into a real graphical Linux environment. So today I'm going to show you an Ubuntu live CD. Version 11.10. And so when you boot off the live CD, you go into the Unity graphical interface. There's also Windows live CDs called BART-PE CDs that if you boot into them, you can go into a full Windows interface. So basically you are able to boot off of the CD and go into a full operating system. So today I'm going to show you in this how this works. Basically we'll boot off of a live CD. I'll show you you can go onto the internet using it. You can hack into the computer, being able to look at files and such. It is just an amazingly great thing. So if you give me a second, we'll dive into this class, Linux live CDs for troubleshooting and hacking. So Linux live CDs came about a few years ago with a distribution of Linux called Knoppix, K-N-O-P-P-I-X. So this was the first distribution that allowed you to boot off of a CD into a full-fledged operating system environment in Linux. So you got, I think back then you got the GNOME interface, and you could do things like write little open office documents and do Mozilla Firefox, etc. So in the beginning there was only Knoppix. Now, since this was a good idea, every distribution, or almost every distribution of Linux allows you to create live CDs or has a live CD distribution. Ubuntu 11.1 that I'm going to show you today, their installation CD for the desktop operating system is also the live CD. So when you boot off of the installation CD, it will give you the option, do you want to try Ubuntu or do you want to install Ubuntu? If you do try Ubuntu, you will go into this live CD environment. The important part is in the live CD environment, you change nothing on the hard drive that's on the computer. So this is very important with understanding live CDs. Unless you go in and start messing with the hard drive, the live CD itself does not change anything on the hard drive. So you can use a live CD, you can sit down at your buddy's computer, pop in a live CD, go look at all the porn sites you want, reboot the system, pull out the live CD, and none of those files have been stored on the underlying hard drive. This can be very good for security, especially if you've got teenagers in the house. They're going to do what they're going to do. So boot off the live CD. The reason is because all those viruses and all that nastiness won't get down to the underlying hard drive because the entire operating system environment is on the CD and nothing can get copied to CDs. So one of the reasons live CDs are good is for that, for securing your computer, making sure you don't get viruses, from going to the places that people go to. The other good thing that live CDs are good for are for troubleshooting. So, if you're a computer technician and you sit down at a computer, a Windows computer, a lot of times it can be difficult to determine whether the problem with the computer is the operating system or the hardware. Some problems are clear-cut. Other problems, you don't really know. So you can boot off of a live CD and see how the computer functions. If you boot off that live CD and the computer works perfectly, then you know that the problems are with the operating system. If you boot off the live CD and you have all kinds of problems, then you know that it may be hardware on the computer. Maybe your network card is failing, your video card, etc. The final thing, which makes live CDs really cool, is they're really great for hacking because they cut through most Windows security like a knife through butter. The reason for this is most of the security in a Windows computer is based around the login process. So when you boot the computer, normally you'll wait a few minutes and then you'll get a Windows login screen when you'll plug in your username and password. When you do that, the Windows computer determines what permissions you have to what files and folders, etc. on your computer. Well, the cool thing with these live CDs is you can put in the live CD, you can boot off the live CD. After you've booted off the live CD, so you're now in a full operating system environment, you can now go into the underlying operating system, so the hard drives that are installed on the computer, and be able to just navigate and look and copy and paste and do whatever you want. You've completely bypassed the security of that Windows computer. Just as a side note, this is why if you're worried about security on your systems, you should always encrypt your data files. Because if your data files are encrypted, somebody with a live CD would be able to get access to them, but they still wouldn't be able to see them or do anything with them because they're encrypted. If they are not encrypted, like I say, all it takes is somebody to insert a live CD, boot into a live CD environment, and then they can go down and they can look at all your files, your folders, your pictures, your videos. They can throw in a USB drive and copy and paste and do whatever it is they want to do. Those are the reasons that these live CDs are really good. Now again, there's a lot of different distributions of live CDs out there now. Basically, Knoppix came up with the concept of how to do this, and then everybody kind of took it and ran with it. So depending on what you are going to be doing, you may need one distribution over another distribution. You know, there's Ubuntu, there's SUSE, there's Red Hat, there's DSL, I think Knoppix is still around. There's all kinds of live CDs out there. Make sure, just determine what ones work for you best. They all, you know, this is Linux. As I say, the good thing or the bad thing with Linux is every distribution is slightly different. So if you try to go use a live CD and it doesn't do exactly what you need it to do, don't give up on live CDs. Just realize, you may need to find a different distribution. We will have a different class on Windows live CDs. So there's something called BARP-PE. This is where you're able to boot into a full Windows environment off of a CD or DVD. Again, this is another cool thing, but it'll be a little bit different class. You actually have to create your disk for doing that. But again, so this isn't just for Linux. You can also have Windows live CDs. Again, that will be another class. One of the caveats with all this is you normally can't use these live CDs with Mac computers. Now there may be a distribution out there, so don't call me a liar if there is, but I have not yet seen a distribution that allows you to boot off of a live CD for Macs. So this will all be Intel, generally Windows-based computers that will use live CDs. Also, if the distributions you're looking for don't contain all of the tools that you need, you can add tools and add programs to your own distribution of Linux. Again, we'll have a different class on how to do that. But with these live CD distributions, there are tools and ways you can go and change to add software that you may need for your particular whatever it is that you're going to be doing. So this is what live CDs are. Oh, they really are wonderful for everybody. You know, whether you're the 40-year-old dad whose 13-year-old son keeps looking at porn sites and keeps crashing your computer, or whether you're the computer technician that needs to be able to troubleshoot your computer, or whether you're the hacker that needs to be able to crack into a computer and be able to look at the underlying files, live CDs literally are good for absolutely everybody. So give me a second and we'll go in and I'll actually give you a demonstration of how this works. So here is my Windows laptop. This is just a standard gateway laptop, I've had for a couple years. It's like 3 years old. As you can see, it has Windows 7 installed, and I'm at the little login screen for Windows 7. So Windows 7 is installed onto the hard drive on this computer. Now, let's say I'm looking at this computer and I see that it's locked, and I'm like, oh, this is horrible, I forgot the password or whatever. Basically, I want to be able to use my Linux live CD on this computer. Well, thankfully, I have my little Linux Live CD here. So I went to the Ubuntu website. I downloaded the desktop operating system, their desktop ISO file, and then I created the CD off of that ISO file. Again, different distributions of Linux are different, but with Ubuntu, the live CD is built into the installation CD. So just download the installation CD for the desktop operating system and you'll get your live CD. So all we have to do is I'm going to turn this off. Then I turn it back on and I pop out the CD drive. Now with this, you're going to have to make sure you have your computer set to boot off the CD drive. So that's something like a lot of newbies forget to do, is that you have a boot order in your BIOS settings. So many times the boot order is set to the hard drive first. Well, you need it to boot off the CD drive first. If you have an operating system and it's always trying to boot to the hard drive first, you'll never get to the CD. So go into the BIOS and click whatever buttons and make sure your boot order is for the CD or optical drive first. Now with these, you may see that they have live boot media. You can create now USB thumb drives with these live operating systems installed. Sometimes you can boot off the network. So I'm showing you the live CDs, but times have changed. You can now create live USB thumb drives, live USB hard drives, etc. So if you see other options out there, that's what's going on. So right now, we can see the little Ubuntu thing happening. This being Linux, I can press this little arrow button and I can actually see what's going on up here. Files, something's happening, using CD-ROM, starting services, stopping services. So when you're booting off the live CD, sometimes there may be problems. You know, maybe you're having a hard drive problem, etc. If you press the arrow key, you will go, whoops. Well, right now I won't. If you press the arrow key, you'll be able to see this screen, and this will show you all the processes that are happening as the live CD boots. So now, depending on what live distribution you're using, you may boot directly into the graphical environment, or you may get an option like this. This option is just very simple. Do you want to install Ubuntu, or do you want to try Ubuntu? Now be very careful. If this is your main computer and you just want to try Ubuntu, make sure you click try, because if you install, you're going to wipe out the operating system you already have on your computer. So be very careful. For the live CD, you always do try Ubuntu. And so now we're into the graphical environment for Ubuntu. So this is not installed on the computer. This is simply running off the live CD that's in here. So as you can see, we've got a LibreOffice writer. So if you want to write Office documents, we have a Firefox web browser. So if I connect to the internet, so I do that to connect. Let's see. Okay, so I've connected to the internet. Now I can use Firefox. And let's see. Just to show you how this works, CNN.com. So I can now surf the web and do whatever I want on this computer off the live CD. So again, as I was talking about before, if you're going to naughty sites, or if your son's going to naughty sites, or let's say you have a computer lab, you know, it's really, really sad. I've been to a lot of really high quality computer labs that have been created for teenagers, and the teenagers have done what teenagers do, and every computer in that computer lab has been trashed. with spam and viruses because, well, teenagers did whatever they wanted to do. Well, with this live CD, see, they can now get on the internet, they can go to CNN.com, etc., and you don't have to worry about the computer getting any viruses. If the computer has any problems, all you do is you just reboot and it's gone. So that's a security purpose. As I said, for troubleshooting, we now see that all the hardware in this computer works. So all the device drivers were detected, the wireless was detected, so we know that this computer's hardware is working, so that's what you can use for troubleshooting. And then for hacking, this is really cool. So I can go, and I'll close out of that. I can go to the folder structure. So what I'm looking right now is a folder structure of the live CD itself. So desktop, documents, downloads, who cares? This is a live CD. I don't care about that. What I care about is, if you can see it right here, these are the hard drive partitions for the Windows 7 computer. So this is the hard drive on this computer. And all I have to do is double click, and I'm now in this hard drive. So I'm now hacking into this hard drive. So if hopefully you know something about Windows file structure, but you can see I have the users folder, the Windows folder, program data, program files, etc. I can just double click into users. The user on this is user. And now I'm sitting in the user's profile. So you know, if I wanted to take a look at, you know, what's going on in the boss's computer, etc., this is all you have to do. You know, you can go right here to desktop, and I can see all the stuff that is on the desktop of this particular computer. So I can see there's client data, rich. So I can see documents here. Let's see what's going on. Haiti, downloads, etc. So these are all the files that are stored on the hard drive of this computer. I was able to hack, basically bypass all the Windows security literally that quick. So if I wanted to plug in a USB hard drive, I could copy and paste this data off. If I wanted to get somebody in trouble, I could copy and paste data on. You know, if you know enough about the Windows operating system, you can drop things into the startup folder, so routines will happen when the computer starts up. And if you had the correct software installed on this distribution of Linux, you could even go in and hack the registry itself and add registry keys or change registry keys in the registry. So this is why the Linux Live CD is just great. It's just amazing. So, like I say, operating system isn't installed, but I showed you, you can surf the web, you know, you can write documents if you want, this Office Libre writer. Now again, this is all kind of crappy Linux software. So, I mean, you're not getting Microsoft Word, but you're getting LibreOffice 3 Word, so I guess that's good. But basically, you get all the functionality of an installed operating system on the live CD. Now, the one thing that I'll caution you is, remember, you can't really store data to a CD or DVD in general, right? So if you create a document, so this is the document software, if you create a document, make sure you plug in a little USB drive so you have somewhere to save it. Because remember, temporary files, nothing gets stored on the hard drive itself. Everything is just stored in RAM. So if the computer shuts down, you lose absolutely everything. So if you use a live CD to write a term paper and then you forget to save it and you lose power, that term paper is gone that quick, and there is absolutely no way to recover it. Even if you are an NSA or CIA cyber ninja, you still ain't getting it back. So that's the one cautious with this. But that's basically, this is what live CDs are. And they're fabulous. So let me get this back into position. We'll have some final thoughts. So that's all there is to Linux Live CDs for troubleshooting and hacking. As with most things in computers, once you understand what's going on, it's not too complicated. It's just being able to figure out what you need to know. Again, with these live CDs, it takes a lot of work for some little computer geek engineer somewhere to create a Linux Live CD. But for you, all you have to do is download the Linux Live CD ISO file, the distribution. You turn that ISO file into a disk, and then you use the disk. It's that simple. I showed you how easy it is to use a Linux Live CD. As long as you know how to burn an ISO file to a disk, you're good. It's not that hard. You burn it to a disk, you then take that disk to a computer, you go into BIOS on the computer, and you do make sure that the computer boots off of CD drive first. You do that, you boot off the CD drive, you go into the Live CD, and then you do whatever you want. Again, different distributions of Linux have different functionality and different quirks. So do remember that and be careful. Things like mounting the hard drive. So I showed you with this Linux Live CD that I could very easily go into the hard drive that's installed on this particular computer. Some distributions of these Live CDs will not auto mount the hard drive. So you may have to understand a little bit about Linux in order to do a mount command to mount the hard drive. Again, it's no big deal. Just remember different distributions are slightly different. And as I always say, the thing with Linux is it can be quirky. So just make sure you remember that going in. Otherwise, yeah, I mean it's really that simple. You just download the Live distributions. If you want to get more into this, do a Google search. You can learn how to create your own distributions or how to add software to distributions that are already around. It's not too hard. We are going to do a class on it. Again, another class we're going to have is they do have Windows Live CDs. It's called Windows BART PE, where you can create a CD and boot into a Windows environment. Windows XP, Windows Vista, Windows 7, etc. Basically, it's just like this, only it's Windows. The reason you're going to do this, again, is, you know, if you want to keep your kids from downloading all the crap to your computer, that's a very good reason. If you want to kind of make your tracks invisible, so you don't want, you know, other people in your house knowing what websites you've been going to, you can use a Linux Live CD. Troubleshooting, again, this can be a godsend, especially, you know, some of these computers can have really quirky problems. You know, you don't know whether it's the operating system or the hardware. You throw in a Live CD, you go, hey, it works perfectly on a Live CD, it must be the operating system. And again, hacking, man, this is why I have a class on like physical security. This is why physical security of your computers is so important to protect yourself against hacking, because all somebody needs is one of these live operating systems to be able to come in, sit down at your computers, they cut through all the security you have, and they can copy and paste and do whatever they want. You know, if you have a cyber thief that can get into your building, you can boot off of one of these Live CDs in a couple of minutes. If you know exactly what you're going after, you can copy and paste that onto a USB thumb drive and you can walk out. Within 10 minutes of getting to a computer, you can have all the data you would want and be walking out the door. Or you can just do a whole hell of a lot of damage. Again, with these Live CDs, not only can you copy and paste files, but if you have the right tools, you can go in and actually change the registry. So you can put in registry hacks that say, you know, when the computer starts up, I want it to download this virus. Or again, and that, you know, I'm a professional here, so I'm not telling you what to do. I'm not trying to give anybody any ideas, but I'm also trying to explain to you how this works in the real world. Is if you had a boss that you really want to get rid of, it would be very easy to walk in with a Linux Live CD and a thumb drive full of child pornography, copy and paste it into his My Pictures folder, and then do a anonymous tip to the company, you know, whatever fraud line. That's not a joke. There would be almost no evidence that that actually happened, and the boss or the employee or whatever would go out on their butt and might actually face criminal charges. So that's, again, like I say, with this hacking stuff, I'm not trying to give you guys any ideas, but I am trying to explain to you how this works in the real world, and I mean, like how you can thrash or get thrashed. So be careful. As I've said many times before, physical security of your computers is very important. And again, if you're worried about the data on your computers, encrypt the hard drive. So with Windows Vista, Windows 7, their business editions, they have BitLocker that's built in. You can turn on encryption. Why that's important is because once you turn on encryption, even if somebody can get to the data files, they will not be able to read them or change them or do anything with them. The reason is the files themselves are encrypted. So that's something to think about there. Well, this class was Linux Live CDs for troubleshooting and hacking. As you know, I'm Eli the Computer Guy over here for EliTheComputerGuy.com and EverymanIT.com. As always, I enjoy teaching this class, and I look forward to seeing you at the next one.